All right, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today to talk about some updates to accessing our reports. We wanted to make sure that we scheduled time to kind of show everybody the nuts and bolts of what's changing, kind of explain why it's changing and some of the benefits that you'll hopefully get as a result of this migration, and then kind of demo things and show you how to access any sort of special circumstances with respect to logging into the system and some tips and tricks that we've learned in our brief amount of time that we've been spending in the system so far. So without further ado, I'll just kind of jump into it with a bit of an overview of specifically what's changing and some of the why behind the change and what's going on. So specifically, we are talking about reports that currently live on our internal SharePoint site that we use for reporting. So I'm sharing my screen, you're seeing my clogged inbox, and this is the page that I'm specifically referring to. So many of you on this call likely access a variety of reports from this hub. This is the main repository that we've been using for quite some time, a few years at this point at least, to kind of compile and administer and point folks to in terms of accessing data and reports for business intelligence or operational reports. And so currently this reporting system is very much integrated into SharePoint. And so in alignment with IT's upgrade and modernization of SharePoint for the college, we need to kind of unbundle our reporting from SharePoint and move it into kind of a standalone platform so that they can continue to do the work that they need to do to get us all up to speed on the latest and greatest version of SharePoint for us all to use. So with that said, we are taking all the reports out of this space and moving them into a new Power BI based reporting service. And so the benefit there is that it'll be very well aligned with our use of Power BI for dashboarding purposes. And so we'll be able to seek out some future integration and some fancy stuff that we can do in the future with respect to how the reports and the dashboards might be able to better communicate. But two, it'll be a more consistent experience, hopefully for you all as end users, because hopefully folks are getting more and more used to logging into Power BI, having awareness of the credentials they need to get into there. And so it'll be a more similar look and feel to how you're used to experiencing the Power BI dashboards. One of the big things that's going to come along with this is that there will be, now the need to redirect any sort of links or bookmarks or anything that you have saved currently that hits this site beginning next week, Monday the 12th. All of those things are going to be transitioning off of this page and into our new space. And so if you're compiling any sort of bookmarks or documentation for your teams or external users whatsoever, you'll want to go in and start updating some of those things with links from the new service. That way, when folks are, clicking on those URLs or being redirected to those links, they're not coming to this page. Also beginning on Monday, you can see now that we've got a banner here kind of informing folks of the move, but beginning Monday, if and when you try and navigate to this page, you'll be redirected to the new report server. And so that'll be seamless for you all, but we want to just make sure that folks are in the loop and aware that things are going to be changing, and this will no longer be kind of the one-stop hub for that. So we've been doing our best to make that known to folks. I know of several other SharePoint sites that other teams manage that might link to this, and so we've been trying to work one-on-one with those groups. But do you have any issues or links that you might click on and access from other SharePoint sites or other places not continue to function? Please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We can make sure that we can help you, help you to identify the new link and the new report server and get everything updated and good to go. The nice thing about the new reporting space is that, as I mentioned, it's going to be very closely aligned to how we're currently using Power BI for dashboards. And so in terms of authentication and getting logged in and everything, things should be very seamless for you as an end user. And hopefully you won't experience too many hiccups or disruptions as you're kind of getting used to the new system and transitioning into that new space. So let me go ahead and pop open the new reporting space so you can kind of get a sense of what I'm talking about here. And we can talk through a few other considerations as we continue to move forward. So as I mentioned, beginning Monday, this will be kind of the new hub for our reports. As you'll notice, things have a bit more of a contemporary look and feel to them. If you spent any considerable amount of time in our Power BI dashboard platform, it'll look and feel very similar. Many of the buttons and the layouts and everything are very similar to what you would experience in interacting with that system. By default, the look and feel does present a bit differently. So I've got some customization that I've already kind of gone in and modified on my end, and these are things that you'll be able to do as well as an end user. But most likely when you navigate here for the first time, it'll look probably something like this with a tiled view. And so one of the cool things about this new system is that it'll allow you as an end user to kind of customize that experience for yourself. So if you like the look of this, which is similar to how the district is presenting their new boxy replacement system, you can use this kind of tiled interface. Alternatively, based on your preferences and how you're used to interacting with things, you can navigate between lists or tiles or changing things to meet your specific your needs and preferences. One thing with the transition is that we're automatically migrating all content that was previously on the SharePoint interface here, and it'll now already be in the new space. That also includes any sort of custom subscriptions or automatic data delivery that we've already got configured for you and your teams. If you're receiving emails with lists of data or PDF reports, or if you go to network folder to access data or reports that we generate, all of those things will persist into the new system. So while we don't anticipate there being any sort of service interruptions there, should you experience any sort of hiccups or interruptions, as always, please don't hesitate to reach out directly to us. We can get that all sorted out for you and make sure that things are set up and reconfigured properly in the new site. Another big consideration for this new report server is that, and this is very different from the previous configuration in SharePoint, you'll need to be connected to Rio's network to be able to access this space. So if you're not on site, if you're not on one of the Rio campuses and connected to the Rio network that way, you'll have to connect to the Rio VPN as you would if you were going to remote into your computer from home, for instance, to be able to get into this space. And so that's a big change. That's an important consideration, something to keep in mind, because if you're not connected to the VPN when you get here, it's going to kind of just boot you and tell you that you're not able to access. So I'll kind of demo that for you here for just a second so you can see what that looks like. I'm currently connected to the VPN. So let me go ahead and disconnect. It takes just a couple seconds. And then I'll close this. I'll reopen the page now that I'm not connected, and we'll see that we can't reach the site. So hopefully folks are pretty used to this at this point, connecting to one of the VPN options for the college. Many times it has you authenticate through Duo if your session is expired, et cetera. But then once you get reconnected and establish that connection to the network, you can refresh the page and get signed in that way. 9 times out of 10, we're also not, we're not guessing that you're going to experience any sort of actual prompt to log in. We're hoping that your browser session will authenticate you based on the credentials that you're already kind of logged in to things with. But I did want to just show you if, for instance, you had an issue where you navigated to the system and it prompted you to log in. This is kind of what that dialog box would look like. And so this login is going to be very similar to what you would do for our Power BI dashboard. So for me, the login is first name, last name. We want to make sure that we're using that internal domain, riosalado.edu. Type in the password, and then I get into the system. So that shouldn't happen for you. You shouldn't get prompted to log in, but just in case you do, have no fear. You can just go ahead and authenticate directly in, and then you should be good to go to access all of your reports. So some nuts and bolts of kind of navigating the system, getting around, configuring things to your liking. Most times by default, you'll kind of land on this space. This is the home screen. Everything in here is security trimmed, meaning based on who you are, your role in the institution, and the security permissions that we have set up, you'll have, more or less tiles or folders here than others. And so, some folks are going to have, maybe some more detail. I've obviously got tons of stuff here, but most folks will probably just have something like general reports where you can go and browse everything that's publicly available to most users within the college. Once you get into a report, everything looks and feels very similar to how it did in the old system. So, the chances are you've already got a good idea of what the specific reports are that you're looking for and what you're looking to run. But you would just navigate to your report. Let me find something that's easy for us to just play around with. You open the report. If there's any sort of prompts for you to enter in a filter or a parameter or some sort of command, that'll be now at the top of the screen. So it's very front and center, right in your face. You can't miss it. You'll view the report, and then everything should generate and run just as you would normally expect it to. With this new system, there's some new functionality that you've got access to, and a lot of that is with respect to how you can kind of export the data or play around with the data a little bit further. So depending on the report, depending on the process that you're using to consume and kind of fuel with this data, there's a variety of exporting options. Typically, most folks are going to export to something like Excel, something like this report where it generates a list of students that you could, kind of work, so to speak. Excel is going to be a great format. For other reports that might be a bit more visual in nature or might have some sort of like trended data on them, there's now some additional exporting options to things like PowerPoint presentations. So if your report lends itself well to that, that would be an option that you now have available to you, which is kind of a cool feature if you got something that's canned and ready to go and take kind of on a roadshow with you. In addition to that, you can also add things to a new favorites list. So that report that I was just running was this 4355 admitted students who are under 18. We use that to flag students who, presumably need to have an under 18 hold, but don't yet have that on their account. You can open these extra options menu here with these three dots, and you have a variety of features here. But the big thing that we wanted to highlight is add to favorites. This list of features will be different based on, again, your role and what permissions you have in the system. But adding things to your favorites places them on this favorites list over here. And so if you're someone who doesn't want to go through and navigate through the web of all the various reports, you can kind of curate your list of hits here that you can come in and have ready access to. We know that folks are going to bookmark things on external sites and being able to share links to other users in the college, et cetera, is going to be valuable. But this favorites option is kind of our best practices, so to speak, for making sure that you've got the content that you're expecting to where you want it. It's replicable and repeatable every single time you want to have access to it. So good suggestion here to make use of the favorites and make sure that you've got access to that so that you can continue to get the data you need when you need it. Beyond that, there's some additional features in the system that we're still kind of playing around with and figuring out, what best practices are going to be in terms of next steps. So I mentioned data subscriptions. That's where we can configure some of these reports to run automatically and send you the data. In future states, we're hoping to turn that feature on for you as end users. That's something that we weren't able to do previously in the SharePoint configuration that we were using. And so once that becomes available, we'll probably either host some additional trainings or produce some documentation that you can use to do that. But something that we're excited about, potentially being able to explore and turn on that functionality for you all. Similarly, I mentioned that there's, enhanced integration with Power BI. So if I were to run this report again, there's a button on here that you'll see that you can pin this to a Power BI dashboard. So we need to explore this a little bit further and figure out how we can how we can really capitalize now on having our reports and our dashboards all kind of in a similar system. But again, we'll communicate all that out and share those things with you as new information becomes available. So keep an eye out on the Wave and on our data newsletter for upcoming changes and new information coming down the pike. So a couple of key points I wanted to hit, and then I will open it up to questions. If you have any questions or concerns, obviously we would love for you to submit a help desk ticket. As you can imagine, we're likely to get a pretty big wave of initial maybe access issues or questions around this. So that'll really help us to manage the queue. If you can submit a help desk ticket for us, we'd love that. We do not anticipate there to be any significant disruptions. Everything has been migrated over. We've been running tons of tests to make sure that all the reports are where they were supposed to be and all the subscriptions are set up the way that we had them in SharePoint. But we're not thinking that we'll get out of it scot-free. So I'm sure that there's going to be something that comes up. And so if you experience any disruption or there's anything that doesn't work as you expected it to, please just feel free to let us know and we can figure all that out. We also know that we've got a few cohorts of external users that do access our reports. And so we're going to be working with those groups kind of one-on-one in managing their training needs independently. They've got a bit of a different authentication process. And so we want to make sure that we can walk them through that kind of case by case and make sure that they've got the access and everything set up on their side so that they don't have any service interruptions as well. And then I would just, reiterate that, starting Monday, starting on the 12th, everything is going to be redirected. So you're going to, be prompted to go to this new site if and when you access the existing site on SharePoint. So, just keep that in mind. It's not that anything is broken. It's just that that's how we are migrating things off of SharePoint and kind of pushing everyone into this new system. So with that, I will kind of open it up for questions. There's not been anything significant from the other sessions that I wanted to share question-wise, other than someone did ask just to clarify that, similar to this old system, all of the reports will continue to have their own unique URL. So you can see up here in my browser bar, all the reports will continue to have that same kind of URL structure. So you'll be able to share report links back and forth. But again, we suggest using this favorites menu if at all possible to manage that for yourselves there. So let me go ahead and stop sharing so I can come back to you all, see questions in the chat and everything. Denise, it looks like you have your hand up.
Is this available now so we can go in and set up our favorites?
It's not available now. There's still a couple tweaks that IT is pulling the strings on in the background before Monday. So starting Monday, you'll have access to it.
Okay. And then my reports on my G drive, are they going to be in here or are they still going to be out on the G drive?
So any data that's delivered directly to you via email or to the G drive, for instance, that'll continue to be delivered. You'll access, if there's like a link to the report in the G drive that redirects you to the report, it will now redirect you to here as opposed to SharePoint. But okay, you'll still continue to receive the data in the places where you've already been receiving it.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Great question.
Zach?
Yes.
Hi, this is Susan Lawrence.
Hi, Susan.
I have a question. We have had the luxury of having a link to all the IR reports on our department SharePoint, the EP2 Rio Salado. So how do we get to it now? And then click on that link that's going to take us to the Power BI.
Yeah, so if you wanted to either work with me one-on-one or someone on your team, we can relink all of those reports on your SharePoint site if that's how you want to go about handling that transition for your team specifically. Otherwise, what you can do is just to navigate directly to the report space, the new report server, and interact with the reports that way. You can add them to your favorites list. But if we wanted to kind of just set up a new kind of link farm on your EP site, we can work with you to do that too.
Oh, that would be great. So maybe I can just send you an email?
Yeah, please feel free to reach out and we can get that set up.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other takers on Q&A? It should hopefully be pretty painless transition. I think once you get over the initial hurdle of, accessing the new system, and probably the biggest wild card will be for those users who are trying to access offsite, getting everything connected to VPN. Once you do that once and it kind of sinks in the steps to do that, I think it should be a really nice smooth transition for everyone. And kind of teasing some of the additional features that we have here, I think we'll be able to get more bang for our buck out of this new system. And so we'll be able to continue to explore that as we, get some more time in there. We've, focused all of our efforts so far on just getting everything into the new system. And so, now the fun work starts of exploring, what additional options and configuration we have available to us. So all right. Well, unless anyone has anything else, I appreciate everybody taking some time out of their lunchtime to come and chat with us. I'm going to post this recording, so if someone on your team wasn't able to attend, feel free to direct them to that. It'll just be on our IR SharePoint site, and I'll send out a communication on that. So thank you all again so much. We appreciate you coming, and look forward to talking to you soon.